Hi, I'm not on social media, Representative Burlison, so I'm going to do this video for you and others so that you understand a little bit better my perspective and I can respond in a reasonable way to you. First of all, I want to offer my apologies to you for interrupting your taxpayer-funded summer vacation of probably the least effective Congress in recent memory. I'm sorry about that. I hope you are enjoying some lake in the Ozarks or wherever you happen to be and having a good time. And I apologize. But again, this really involves your employee, David Grusch. And this is now time number 2, which we'll discuss about me having to engage you about him, right? And the last time you called me, okay? And I know because my cell phone still has your cell phone number in it. And I'm sure the records reflect that we had some conversation about it at some length, all right? Anyway, look, I also have obligations to a bunch of employees, literally thousands over the year, temporary employees who work, many of them first jobs, many of them part-time, many of them sort of need that extra income, and they make only between $18 and $25 an hour, many of them. So they really need me to pay attention to my job as general counsel, and instead I'm having to engage an issue for a second time caused by your employee. So for their sake, I'm going to do a little more video to help you out and understand so you finally tackle things like you should have the first time, all right? All right, having said that, remember last year, just for people who don't remember or don't know, because many didn't, I had to engage you and also the House Oversight Committee's General Counsel and Deputy General Counsel about your employee, Dave Grusch. And again, if you remember, what he tried to do last year is he tried to go around, this is prior to the SCIF, the opportunity in the SCIF, he tried to talk to a guy named Jordan Flowers and one other person to get them to communicate a message to me that Lou needed to give up, quote unquote, the red meat in the SCIF. Now, there's a couple of problems I have with that. First of all, as an attorney, I have a real problem with that. And let me tell you why. I'll tell you it on a bunch of different levels. First of all, I'm actually a real attorney, not like the people you deal with most of the time. And so what that means is I take my ethical duty seriously. And I've never asked Lou what the red meat is. I frankly don't care. But one thing I would never do is I would never encourage him to violate an oath, a non-disclosure agreement, or even just an ethical belief he felt was important. I don't do that to clients, and I don't do that because of coercion by somebody named Dave Grusch, right? I just don't do it. And so that was a very strange moment, and it led to me actually having a conversation with the General Counsel and Deputy General Counsel of your House Oversight Committee, of which you are a member. And then we had our conversation about it, and you assured me you would take care of things, and I kind of left it in your hands to do so. I don't think you've done as good a job as you may think about that, right? Now, you may wonder, because there's people out there who what I call, disclosure jihadists, who are like, you got to sometimes, break a few arms in order to get, disclosure, because that's all that matters, right? They don't care if we follow the rules. They don't care if you have a staffer for a Missouri representative trying to coerce testimony under the scenes and behind the scenes. Instead, they're just, let's, coerce everybody. Well, here's the problem, and I'm going to break it down for you, because you might say, Ivan, I'm just a simple, Missouri congressperson. I'm chasing aliens. I don't understand all this about legal ethics and rules and, general counsel. I don't get that. So could you explain it to me? And I'm going to do that right now. So coerced testimony is bad. Why is it bad? Because it is often unreliable, right? That's one reason. Okay, and see, I've written it down for you, and because it's written down, it means it's real. For example, just as real as, what is that commandment, the one about not, something about false witness, right? Don't do this false witness against somebody else. And that kind of is along the lines of David Grusch trying to coerce Lou Elizondo through Jordan Flowers and one other person to give up the red meat. I mean, as absurd as it sounds, and it sounded absurd to me, it is actually what happened. All right. Now, if you don't understand that, there's a story, because I know you're Christian and you constantly reference it and chasing aliens, that there's a story in the book of Kings about King Ahab and how he tries to get a vineyard. And it's kind of a, if you need me to, I'm happy to read you the story. We can read it together and talk about, have a nice conversation. That's one thing we can do to help you really understand this idea that coercion is bad and you can't do it. It leads to bad results, unreliable testimony, and it is morally wrong as well. If you don't understand about ethics and all this, then maybe you'll understand about morality, which is down here, okay? Now, what you really have, in my opinion, sir, is you have what I call a rogue employee, right? He did it last year, he did it now. Is there going to be a third time? Let me suggest something to you. When you have an employee or an officer of a corporation or somebody who's sort of high up for whatever reason, I think that they have a greater obligation than the average person to obey and live by the rules. And so as a result, you must take them to account in an even stricter way. Now, I know that you and this new Republican Party sort of has the opposite of that, right? Like, the rules only, the higher you go up, the less the rules apply. Except if you're Fauci, but if you're Pam Bondi, it's totally fine. So I get it. I think there's a bit of moral confusion there. I think you need to work on that too. But let me make it clear what I'm offering to do to help you out. I would suggest that you subpoena me. Now, not an invitation, not an opportunity, not one of these, could you come and all that nonsense. I want an actual subpoena for legal reasons beyond kind of your pay grade. But I'd like a subpoena. You could subpoena me. You could subpoena Dave Grusch. Could subpoena Jordan Flowers and one other individual who we'll talk about. And then, who else could testify? You. You could come down from the little, the nice seats, and you can join us, what you call the voters, right? And actually giving testimony under oath about what you know about Dave Grusch and his attempt to coerce testimony before Congress in a skiff. That is the reality of what actually happened. And I am willing to, I'm an officer of the court, I got to tell the truth anyway, but be happy to be put under oath. But I want that subpoena, right? You can do it. You can ask your colleagues to do it and bring me and Dave Grusch and Jordan Flowers and one other person, and we can get all sorts of records. And you know what? Let me even suggest a few mechanisms here. One is I would love to be able to ask questions. I think they would all enjoy very much having me ask questions of them. I would love to depose them to elicit why it is this happened, right? So we can figure that out, or I could write out the questions and they could be asked. There's different mechanisms of working these things out. I'm not that familiar with how the rules work in the House of Representatives. I'm just a regular old lawyer doing old lawyer stuff at the in the Southwest and in California. So that's what I do. I'm not in DC like you, but anyway, I just wanted to make it clear that I think you have a problem with Dave Grusch. He's done this before. He keeps on doing it. He needs to stop. When I talked to the House GC and Deputy GC, they said, you know what, we can't do much because he's Eric Burlison's employee. So now the burden is upon you. What are you going to do to stop this behavior? It's very frustrating, but I know you understand. But I'm willing to be subpoenaed, and we can get into this. As the saying goes, I'll be your Huckleberry Eric. I'd look forward to it. I hope to hear from you. You have my number, but I'd rather hear from you with a subpoena. Thanks so much.